Hey, and welcome back. Remember about a year and a half ago when the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, Justice Roberts, swore in Barack Obama as president. Now, he only had 37 words to read out for the president to take the oath, and Justice Roberts screwed it up. He couldn't get 37 words correct, and it got me thinking about what's happening with the Supreme Court right now. The Supreme Court, here now, early fall, late summer, is not meeting. They take off the entire summer. They don't work very hard. And the justice scenario got me thinking about the lack of preparedness and the lack of commitment by our lifetime appointees on the United States Supreme Court who do very little work. Most of us don't realize this, but these folks hardly ever show up to do their work. You know, there's 10,000 cases on appeal that come before the Supreme Court every year. Many very important issues, many very vital issues that the court takes up to consider. There are issues that affect businesses, that affect life and death in some instances. And so they're very important that the court hear a lot of these cases. If there is a difference in circuits, we've got 13 circuits throughout the country. If you live down in Louisiana like I do in the 5th Circuit, they may rule differently than a California circuit. And so someone's got to arbitrate and see that there is one law that uniformly applies to all of us throughout this country. We live under a country of equal justice for all. That doesn't often happen, and it's the Supreme Court's job to step in. Well, they don't step in most of the time because they don't work very hard. This year, now hear me on this, this year, the United States Supreme Court might hear 60 cases out of 10,000. 60 out of 10,000? They've got a very large staff. There's 9 of them. They've got a lifetime appointment. Why don't they go to work? Let me tell you what they do. Right now, as we're into the late summer, we've got justices all over the world, all over the world. Summertime, boy, they take off. Anthony Kennedy, Justice, he picks up extra bucks out at the University of Salzburg when he was still on the court. Justice Alito prefers the beaches and teaches out in California at Malibu, Pepperdine University. Now you've got Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She has bonded with the popular tourist town of Sorrento, Italy, overlooking the Bay of Naples, where she teaches every summer and makes big, big bucks to do so. And I can go on and on with you. The Chief Justice, Justice Roberts, paid $15,000 for 1 week's work teaching a course in Vienna last year. They take off the entire summer, sometimes 4 and 5 months. The new term of the Supreme Court does not even start till the middle of October. So these guys and ladies just are not serving us well. They are not performing the job they were supposed to do. We're not getting a fair return on the money that we spend on them. Their job is to work full time, deciding these cases that have paramount importance to so many people in this country, and they are passing the buck. They're not doing this job. Now, Justice Kennedy went before one of the congressional committees last year and said, testified they need more salary. They're just not making enough money. I don't know why they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars on the side besides the salary they're getting, which is about $250,000 a year. I believe Senator Specter from Pennsylvania raised the question, well, do you think you ought to be taking off all summer long like you're doing right now, Justice? And Kennedy said, well, you know, we always get our work done. We're never unfinished at the end of the term. Well, of course you can get, if you're only doing 60 cases, I guess you can get your work done by the end of the term. You're not doing your job, Justice Kennedy. Now, you're not there anymore, but the other justices are not doing their job. These folks get a lifetime appointment. Who else in America, hardly in the world, gets an appointment for life? That is outrageous to begin with. There ought to be term limits on the Chief Justice and all the other justices. They ought to serve maybe a maximum of 20 years, maybe 2 terms, something like that. I think they ought to be reconfirmed after every 10 or 12 years to be sure they're doing their job. Where are the checks and balances? They did not appear under the present scenario of the U.S. Supreme Court. Then you know what happens? You know how those 60 cases are decided? There's been a number of articles written about it, that the cases themselves are decided. Professor David Strauss, who teaches law at the University of Minnesota, he studied the whole problem of law clerk pooling. The justices tell their clerks, well, you look over all the briefs that are filed and tell us what cases you think we should pick. They're not doing the job. It's done by the law clerks. So you've got a lazy, lazy bunch who are not doing their job. They're not earning their salary, and they're not seeing that justice is received by millions of Americans throughout this country, and I think it's wrong. I'm going to start a petition. They ought to be recalled, I think, but at least there ought to be term limits, and they ought to show up and do their job which the U.S. Supreme Court is not doing now. If you want to know a lot more about this, you can read an article I've written on my website. My website's www.jimbrownusa.com. We're going to start a petition on there. I want your input. You can go to my website and give me your feelings on the laziness of the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm Jim Brown. That's what I think. I hope you agree. If not, let me hear from you, and we'll be right back.